Hello viewers, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show how to add motion to FreeCAD model in Blender. So the first thing is we're going to open a FreeCAD model. I created this model sometime back and I will put the link to that video where I created this model. So this is a wheel model, and you can see in the I'm using a like a slightly different interface this time on the FreeCAD, and I changed the I went to a dark theme, so that's the difference. So we are going to create a mesh out of this. So we are in the mesh design workbench, and we're going to create the mesh. We're going to use this surface deviation as low as possible, and then angle to be like 5 degrees. You can change the angle if you want, and try it out several times to get a better mesh. So the mesh I got here, you can see that there's a mesh body, and I'm going to go to the wireframe and show you the mesh. So this is not bad. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's not terrible either. So I'm going to use this. I mean, I could have iterated a little bit and refine it, but I'm not going to bother about this because this is a simple model. So in order for me to demonstrate what I'm doing, I'm going to use that mesh, and I'm going to export it as a STL file. Now one can ask why I export this as STL file instead of just exporting it as a like an object file. Now I tried that first, and what happened was when I brought that into Blender, it was all messed up. It's very coarse, didn't give me the correct refinement. So that's why I'm exporting it as a STL. So if you're familiar with or has worked with 3D printing, you probably be using STL files. So I'm going to import that file into Blender. You can import it as STL file into Blender. Now this model is, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to look at the mesh. It seems like mesh is pretty the same as what we got, no distortions. That's good. And sometimes you can get distorted when you import into Blender. So since I using units as inches, I'm going to change the same unit system in Blender as well. I created a separate video on this. You can watch that. I'll put the link there, but I'm going to scale it down to to the appropriate units, inches, and then to the to the as 0.001. And then I'm also going to change the view, clipping, start and end, adjusted to like 0.035 and 3500, so I get a decent view out of it. They won't clip around and kind of a messed up the view. So that's, I'm satisfied with that. Now what I'm going to do is, so the wheel I imported it right at the origin. I'm going to move it up a little bit. You can do that by grabbing it and moving it in Z coordinates. You have to press G for grab and for moving in Z direction, and then you can just drag on. So that's what I have done here. Now then I'm going to add another cube. So this case, I'm going to create some kind of a base or a flow onto this wheel, so that you kind of have some kind of a base. Now I think I messed up my minutes. I had it feet, so I'm going to change it to inches. So that would essentially change the the units to change inches. And now I'm going to adjust the size of that the cube, or the, in this case it's just the flow or the base. I'm going to make it zero point 0.5 thick, and increase it, let's say 150 inches in length, and no, actually 150 in width, and 300 in length. Now I want, what I want to do is here is move this wheel along this flow. So I'm going to move the flow to align with the wheel to a certain end. And so that's what I did. I used the grab for G for grab, and moved it in Y direction. Now going to add what I'm going to add is a curve, and then I'm going to add as a path. So once I do that, you can see there is line that is created. So and that line is you can see in the scene selection, I have what you call the nums path. That's the line I created, and you can see it is kind of highlighted in yellow. So I'm going to modify that a little bit. Just go into the edit mode and drag that node, and just G for grab once again, and in Y direction. So just press Y, and then you can grab, you can kind of extend it, move that node only. The reason for that is I want to move this wheel in Y coordinates. So that's why, I mean, the wheel will follow this path, this simple straight line path. Now I'm going to go into the constraint. I picked the wheel mesh, or the wheel I imported, and went to constraints, and I'm going to make some changes here so that the wheel can be moved. Okay, so I just used a couple of adjustments I did there, and I use follow curve. Now when I kind of and then the offset, when I change the offset, you can see in 0 it is located in one end, and when you go into the minus 100, and that's 100%, it goes to the other end. So that's the kind of for the the way I'm doing it right now. So I use, yeah, so the minus 100, it worked. So I'm also putting some keyframes at 0. I'm putting one keyframe, and then the minus 100, I'm putting another keyframe, so that you can essentially move the wheel, and then essentially kind of drag it along that path. Next thing is to apply a rotation. So here the rotation, I'm going to rotate it about x coordinate. So now I can essentially sometimes you have different ways of doing. What I'm doing here is essentially giving an angle, so that you can you essentially what the wheel diameter is, and length of the the direction, the length that this wheel will travel. You can calculate what the angle that it needs to rotate, go all the way from one end to the other. So that's what I did in that. Now I'm switching off every bit of unnecessary stuff on the screen, so I only visualize the wheel and the flow. And then I'm going to go into the render shading, and I'm going to adjust few things here, just to make sure that when I go to the render, it doesn't kind of distort the color. So that's why I went to shadow, and click on the high bit depth, so that it doesn't distort the view. Then I'm going to select the, I'm going to move the lighting to a proper location. Now, what I want to achieve here is uh, essentially give some, when the wheel rotates and moves, reflection from the light falls onto the floor. So adjusting the power of the light, and then also the clipping of the shadow, so that you get a proper shadow. And these settings you can use because this works here pretty well, and I have been working these with these settings for a while, and it works fine. So the light, I can kind of adjust it. I'm going to move it to kind of a middle of the path, and then we can play around with the lighting to get the appropriate shadow, so it kind of gives you more realistic render. Now, as you can see, you have this, I haven't colored this yet, so that's why it appears, both of them as white. So next thing is to add a color. So I'm going to go to the materials, and maybe add maybe you know kind of a gray color, apply that, and that should be enough for the floor. And for the wheel, I'm going to add a different color, but at the same time you can see that when the wheel moves, seems to be a shadow right behind that, so that's good. Now I'm going to add you know gray, kind of a brownish color to the wheel, and I'm going to adjust few things. I want to get a kind of a metallic kind of a color, so that it's more realistic. So I'm going to adjust few things on the principal shader here, and you can play with that, and you can adjust the kind of the effect the way you want it. But it's you can do trial and error. You can get the appropriate color you want. So this is, as you can see, I have moved the wheel now, and when the light moves, and you can see that, yeah, you can get the reflection. Now I'm going to drag my cursor to the top left and open a new window. And in the new window, I'm going to set to the shader editor. Go down and select the shader editor. And since I have picked the cube or the floor, I can see the material or the principal shader. I'm going to do is Shift D and copy the same the principal shader, and add a mix shader to that. Okay, so I did that a little bit fast, but replay it and see. So I'm going to connect these two principal shaders to the mix shader. I'm trying to mix the colors. In this case, I'm going to make the one color light and other one color kind of a grayish. So the mix, I'm trying to get the mix effect. Now you're not going to see that effect because I'm not connect the mix shader to the material output yet, so you're not going to see that. But I'm going to make everything default in the principal shader. So that's what I'm not exactly default, actually make everything like zero. The effect is essentially negating the effect. Now I'm going to add Musgrave texture to that, the whole, and then also I'm going to add another what do you call a color ramp also. The whole effect or the whole exercise here is to, I'm trying to get some on this surface, I'm trying to get some snow on the road, or the snow on the floor effect. So that's what I'm trying to do, so that you kind of get that special effect. So I'm playing with few of these I would say the options we have. so that you kind of get the best effect. So connecting the nodes, connect the height to the fact, and then from the color ramp connect the color to the fact in the mix shader. So that's what I did. So with that done, I'm going to play with some few options. I mean, you can see what I'm doing to get to the final product I want. The in the Musgrave texture, I'm adjusting a few things in the Musgrave texture, trying to go to the scale, change the scale, and a few other options I have, so that you get the effect I want. So I'm going to say, it's a kind of a trial and error process. Okay, until you get what you want, you keep changing stuff. So yeah, I think I got the some of the effect I needed. So I'm going to fine tune it further, so that I get the final product. So I think it's now, you kind of get the picture what I'm aiming for. It's kind of a powdery stuff on the surface, so that's the effect you're kind of seeing in the right window. And then you kind of you on top of it you have this wheel, and then the shadow rays fall on that, so it kind of a cool, right? So that's the thing that I'm trying to do here. So done with that. The next thing I'm trying to do is, around the surface, I'm going to, change it to transparent. So go to the render properties and go to uh, go to the shadow and then make it transparent, and that should work. And also, there are few adjustments I'm making. Actually, it's the film and then transparent, and then there are a few adjustments I have to make. And then I'm going to go to the compositor and go to the nodes and click on the use nodes, and then I'm going to add, go to the color and alpha over, pick the alpha over, and then kind of put them in between. And then the alpha over is the color that you are mixing with the compositor. So you want whatever color you want to have, you change it, and then that's the color that would appear in the background. So that is what I have done. So you can see wheel rolling on the surface. Hope you like it. Thank you, and please subscribe.